Well, it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker to close out our great third summit that we've had here. His Royal Highness Prince Mirad, and we're also honored to be joined by Her Excellency, the Ambassador from the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, Ambassador Kouar, and let's welcome Ambassador Kouar also to our Prince Raad is the chairman of the National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation, and also the president of the Hashemite Commission for Disabled Soldiers. He was appointed also by a royal decree on the 21st of April of 2014 as the president of the Higher Council for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And he also, from July of 2017, His Royal Highness serves as the president of the Jordan Sports Federation for the Handicapped and the Jordan Paralympic Committee. He attended Tufts University, from which he received his bachelor's degree. He received a master's degree from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts, and then he continued his education and studies at Cambridge University in England, where he received his MA in philosophy in 1998. He also attended the British Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in 1990 and served for several years in the Jordanian Armed Forces. I have not met Prince Mirad before lunch today, but I had a great conversation with him, and I can tell you that not only is he a member of the royal family and also involved in all the things that we care so deeply about, but I detect he's just really a good guy too. Prince Mirad.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Senator Harkin, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My colleagues and I sadly missed last year's Harkin summit due to some unavoidable circumstances. So this year we made a big effort to be here with you, and we are so delighted that we made it. Your dream to create this summit, Senator Harkin, is truly remarkable. As you've allowed people to congregate here in DC from all over the world to share their experiences and to network for the sake of persons with disabilities and their inalienable right to seek employment. We are, Senator Harkin, forever in your debt, because it is at conferences like this that new ideas emerge, bonds are forged, and magic happens. Ever since I knew that I would be talking or speaking to you here today, I have been contemplating on what I could possibly say that to you, experts from all over, that you haven't heard already. Not an easy challenge, that's for sure. I will attempt to tell you a little bit about the uphill struggle that we are facing in Jordan, that is, in all honesty, not too dissimilar to the struggles of other developing countries, and how we are hoping to reach the top. The problems and challenges that we face in my part of the world are rather different in size and scope to what you face here in the United States, although many issues do transcend the world over. First of all, I'd like to paint for you a quick backdrop of my neck of the woods so that you may understand the context of what we are dealing with. The Middle East, or rather the muddled East, I should say, is one of the regions of the world that has witnessed destruction over many decades. The wars, both regional and civil, the proxy wars, the wars of attrition, the internal conflicts, the revolutions, the coups d'etats, the uprisings, the religious conflicts, the ideological divides, the land grabs, the fight for natural resources, the desire for hegemony, colonialism, spheres of influence, the distrust between nations, the meddling and interference in the affairs of others, the lack of good governance and leadership, and the general balance of power have all contributed to the fragile state that is the Middle East. This is the backdrop of our lives and the overarching architecture of the region that we live in and that we have to build upon to survive and to somehow prosper. This being said, my country, Jordan, and I'm sure those of you who have visited will attest, is like a little island of stability amidst a very turbulent sea. I imagine some of you may be now wondering, with all the issues that I've just mentioned, how is it that Jordan has made disability rights such a priority, and that we, my colleagues and I, are even here attending this distinguished summit? The simple answer is that we took a decision a long time ago to look beyond the madness and upheaval that has plagued the region and commit ourselves to the issue of disability and disability rights and forge ahead. And since then, since that fateful moment, we haven't looked back. It has become a niche area. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that things are perfect for persons with disabilities in Jordan. Not at all, not by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am saying is that with the little we have always endeavored to punch above our weight. In general, and in comparison to the other Arab countries, I would venture to say that we are leading the charge on disability and have been for a long time. We have numerous NGOs that have worked for decades in this space. Our universities have churned out thousands of talented and qualified people who have managed these organizations, both at home and throughout the region. And persons with disabilities in Jordan have been on the front lines, demanding new legislation, demanding new disability legislation that was finally realized last year. Where we have fallen short, however, and in some areas dramatically, has been on the public policy side of things, strategizing for disability at the macro level and delivering services to persons with disabilities nationwide. So in short, compared to our neighbors, we are doing well. But in reality and in truth, for us, that doesn't cut the mustard. Our hopes and aspirations are way more ambitious. Now, vis-à-vis employment, we truly believe that the right to work is an inalienable right for all, and by all, I mean all people. The right to work is a human right, that which allows for and paves the way for individual autonomy, the right to live independently. It enhances social inclusion and freedom of choice, etc., etc. We know all of this to be true, yet in my country, like in the majority of developing countries, there are numerous barriers that prevent and hinder persons with disabilities from finding employment. The main overarching issue being the stereotypical portrayal of persons with disabilities as a medical case, someone who is sick or unfit or incapable of work because of his or her disability. In short, someone who needs fixing. They are therefore shunned by the labor market and discriminated against because of their disability. At the core, the problem lies with our Ministry of Education that has not yet taken on its full responsibility of educating children with disabilities in Jordan. This solemn duty was never fulfilled, and as a result, the vast majority of children with disabilities have not been educated or educated on par with children without disabilities. This, of course, has had a knock-on effect over the years that has resulted in the accumulation of a very high percentage of people with disabilities who are illiterate, uneducated, without skills or experience, and in many cases, unemployable. This, unfortunately, is a massive problem for most countries in the developing world, not only for my country. So the question at heart is how to fix it. Another barrier to employment for persons with disabilities is the inability of employers in both the public and private sectors to understand and appreciate the necessity of their obligation to provide reasonable accommodations. The unfortunate narrow-minded view is that it is a hassle, a burden, and/or an unnecessary high cost that their organization would have to incur. The sad reality is that most employers share this myth regarding costs without any supporting empirical evidence to bear, and without undertaking any cost-benefit analysis to back up their claims, nor any careful study of the irrefutable evidence that exists in abundance that hiring persons with disabilities who are qualified and can do the job is simply good for business. In this vein, the severe lack of accessibility in general in the public space and in the workplace, to be more precise, also severely hampers persons with disabilities, especially those with physical disabilities, from finding and retaining work. Matters that people without disabilities don't even think about, but do by instinct, like crossing the street, for instance, or going up or down steps, are often Herculean challenges for persons with physical disabilities, or simply not possible. Also just getting from A to B, let alone entering a building, is a huge undertaking for those who have no other means but to use public transportation networks, which are by and large inaccessible. Another factor of major consequence, and maybe the most fundamental in my country and elsewhere throughout the developing world, is the lack of proper diagnostic testing and assessment. Children with disabilities are very often misdiagnosed or not genuinely diagnosed at all, especially those with intellectual, neurological, or developmental disabilities. Misdiagnoses of even a fraction to the left or to the right can put the child on the wrong path and lead to disastrous outcomes, rendering the young man or woman later on incapable of getting the appropriate treatment and rehabilitation, education, and work, or without the necessary skills and training to secure a job. Misdiagnoses, together with the lack of awareness and knowledge on the part of parents and families, may lead to exacerbated impairments and a life of severe disablement and seclusion, a lost opportunity that in most cases may not be salvaged. So what is the solution for Jordan and other countries that face the same predicament vis-à-vis employment for persons with disabilities? The short answer is political will, ownership, owning the problem, and deciding to do something about it according to a national plan that is based upon sound legislation that is implementable. In Jordan, we enacted a new law last year, law number 20, for the rights of persons with disabilities. This law came about as a culmination of 4 years of broad consultation, examination, and analysis with all the relevant stakeholders. On employment, it clearly stipulates that no person shall be excluded or denied his or her right to work because of a disability. This article overrode an old, antiquated law that had stipulated that anyone with a disability would be categorized as unfit or unsuitable for work. This new law is viewed as very progressive and groundbreaking in our part of the world, as it is a clear departure from the medical model in favor of a human rights-based approach towards employment. It is, of course, not up to a medical practitioner to decide what a person with a disability can or cannot do. And the law now clearly states that both the public and private sectors are obligated to hire persons with disabilities according to a percentage of the job vacancies made available. In order to ensure the hiring of persons with disabilities, the law provided for the establishment of an enforcement mechanism, namely the Equal Opportunities Committee, which comes under the umbrella of the Higher Council for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the organization that I chair. It is a mechanism with a sole mandate for mediation that facilitates access to jobs for persons with disabilities by providing the technical support for employees and their employers, as well as investigating any claims of discriminatory practice against an employee or a job seeker with a disability. Law number 20 also addresses very clearly the imperativeness of a good education for all children with disabilities, and preferably in an inclusive school. When school children without disabilities interact from an early age with children with disabilities, the stigma quickly disappears, and the students grow up comprehending that human diversity is a normal part of life, and that no two people are the same. And as a result of the law, a new national strategy for inclusive education is soon to be launched, and hopefully within a few years the number of inclusive schools in Jordan will increase dramatically. Our hope is that, that persons with disabilities in the future will land jobs not because of their disability, but rather because they are capable and just as qualified to do the job as anyone else, provided that the necessary accommodations, whether technical or physical, are met. I believe this is crucial for one's self-esteem, to be hired for one's credentials rather than on the basis of one's disability. And as is often quoted, we hope that persons with disabilities in Jordan will eventually be taxpayers rather than tax takers. At the structural level, I'm happy to acknowledge that in accordance with our new law, we are obliged to set new standards for diagnostic testing, mentorship, educating families, making workplaces and public transportation networks fully accessible, etc., etc. The list of must-dos is endless. And that is precisely why my delegation and I have attended the summit, to learn from you, share our experiences, and hopefully take home some new ideas and initiatives that may snowball into something wonderful. The people in my country and beyond our borders yearn for peace and stability throughout our tormented region. And persons with disabilities in particular, like everyone else, are demanding their rights to a good education, to live independently, to access good healthcare, and most importantly, to secure a job that will grant them financial independence. The ABCs are well known. We know what we have to do to support them, and there are no shortcuts. We have to persevere, to work very diligently, and hopefully by the grace of God and the support that we will be able to muster from our friends and partners, we hope one day we will truly emerge as a model for disability rights throughout the region. I thank you all.
We're going to transition quickly, Tom.